Felton.
Felton, she is the Fremont County Extension, she is the nutrition, right?
Sensible nutrition
Sensible
educator.
nutrition,
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming. I think that we're probably good to go. I am Allison Felton, and I'm just one of the Sensible Nutrition educators here in Fremont County. There's actually a couple. And the basic mission of the Sensible Nutrition program is to help individuals learn to eat better for less. And we're funded through SNAP Ed, through a grant, and then we operate out of the extension office, so my office is just right across the street. We teach adults in a series of 8 classes, focusing on different things, and I do operate under some income guidelines, and they're right here if you want to take a look. Folks that fall under the income guidelines are welcome to attend for free, and they get reinforcement items for every class. However, if you're over income, you're still welcome to come. There just might be a small charge. And it's not, you don't have to bring like 6 months of bank statements or anything like that to my class. You just show up, we fill out a registration form, and we go from there. And each of the classes focuses on, a lot of them focuses on the My Plate, which is the current USDA visual for helping us to eat just a little bit better. Like I said, the second class that I want to talk about today is food safety. But before I do that, I wanted to let you guys know that I am teaching on Tuesdays at 12:30 here in the Fremont Center next week. And if you know anyone that would like to attend and that's not a convenient time, just have them call me. We'll work something out. If they want the classes, I really want to teach them. And I came to know Sensible Nutrition myself when 25 years ago, my husband and I thought it would be a good idea to have a baby, and we did. And we weren't really ready, and shortly after I had that baby, he lost his job, and I was not working. So I went to the WIC office in hopes of finding some help, and they were able to help me buy formula for my baby, and at that time I was introduced to Sensible Nutrition, and I loved it. It was a great class. I learned a lot. It was very reassuring to have all that good nutritional information when you've just had a baby and your resources are very limited. And then of course, fast forward, he got a job, I got a job, and we didn't have limited resources. My daughter is a very nutritionally sound person, I think just because of the way we raised her. Then my son, who was several years later, is kind of a picky eater. And I really think, I've wondered if it's because, I gave him more choices. With Chelsea, I was like, we're gonna eat oatmeal, that's what we're eating, this is good for us. With my son, I'm like, I'm not making oatmeal this morning, here's whatever you want. And I think I fostered some pickiness with him. So I think it's a great program. Like I said, I haven't been with the program very long, but when I saw the opening, I was like, oh, I remember really gaining a lot from that program. And each class you get a free reinforcement item, and you get a cookbook at the end and a certificate. A lot of good information in our cookbook, and I kept it for years and years, my original cookbook. So that's why I became an educator, because it's a good program. It really is. And then we do go into the schools. They have to be what's called a qualifying school and teach basic nutrition to the little guys. We teach some physical activity in each class, but I'm obviously not an aerobics instructor, so don't let that intimidate you. It's all really easy, fun stuff. So we also work a little bit with the food pantries, providing educational materials. This is kind of an example of what I would take to the food pantries. This is talking about zucchini, which if anyone's a gardener or lives by a gardener, you probably got more zucchini than you know what to do with. But the great thing about zucchini is it's an excellent source of vitamin A. It's a great source of potassium and vitamin C. But most of the nutrients in zucchini are found in the skin. So that's kind of what this tells people, you know, when you're preparing zucchini, it's best to leave the skin at least mostly on. Has some recipes on the back. So when we work with the food pantries, we try to provide educational materials. Sometimes we'll bring in samples like from our cookbook and recipes. So, I mean, it's one thing to have the food, but if you're getting food that you really don't know what to do with or why, you should, you know, eat this, right. Yeah, eat this over, you know, something maybe not quite as good for us.
So
It's helpful.
If you're like making zucchini bread and you know how you shred it into the skin.
Right.
You still get the phytonutrients?
Mm-hmm. Yes, you do. When I do zucchini bread, I just shred it with the skin on, and
Yeah, that's how I do it.
But yeah, even if it's cooked and has a little sugar in with it to
That's
make
what
it
I
a
was
little
wondering.
more
I'm like,
flavorful. The
does this
sugar
balance
doesn't
this
cancel
out?
out
Yeah.
the phytonutrients. So yes, it's just if you like I said, if you're not eating the whole vegetable or the whole fruit, you're not getting quite as much nutrients as you would from doing that. So
you should leave the skin on cucumbers too?
you know, now cucumbers, and I do have an education sheet on cucumbers, and I did not bring it. I do believe so. I believe that a lot of times the skin has most of the nutrients, but I would have to double check to really be for sure. I can run over to my office later
No,
and
that's
print
okay.
up
I
a
was
sheet.
just like
But I want to say so.
wondering because.
And I just, like I said, I brought zucchini because, and I'm not a gardener. I don't raise my own food. I shop them along farmers markets and the store. But I know a lot of people don't always realize that. And zucchini is something that, even without being a gardener, just by standing still, people give me zucchini. So, and I know that a lot of the produce that's donated to the food pantries has a lot of zucchini in it. So it's really helpful for people to know what to do. And if you guys would like one of these sheets, I do have plenty. Just grab one on the way out. There is a couple recipes on back, and it's kind of interesting. And I have more information on my booth right up front with the extension folks on the program if you'd like some more information. We worked a little bit with the First Lady's Wyoming Hunger Initiative, and I know she's going to be here later today, or that was the original plan, through the Grow a Little Extra. And what we did with that, and I will have probably mid to late March, I'll have some seeds over at the extension office. I think I'll have cucumbers, cabbage, beans, and I hope I'm not misquoting, but I will have like 6 different varieties that should do well here. They've picked them out to do well here for free. Just come get them, and the Grow a Little Extra is just, you know, if you can, they do well and you have a little extra, bring it to me, I'll weigh it and I'll take it to the food pantries along with some educational materials on how to use it.
When is that going to be?
I should have the seeds mid to late March. And we just kind of help. It's not Sensible Nutrition's, you know, program. It's through Grow a Little Extra through the Wyoming Hunger Initiative, but we get to help with it, and it's really a great program. So if you want some free seeds, just come see me. So what I've given everybody, and we'll go ahead and probably get into our lesson because I'm jabbering and taking up all our time, is Fight Back. This is the website I'm at here is fightback.org. The reason I kind of wanted to teach food safety is because we do believe some myths. And before I was an educator, I worked in daycare kitchens. So food safety was really emphasized. And it should be, because you definitely don't want to be making someone's child sick. So that's kind of why I've chosen this. And I want to just show you a few things here in a minute on things that working in kitchens so much and working with so much food, I've seen, you know, examples just here locally. And sometimes you hear, oh, there's, you know, listeria in your lettuce. Well, what's listeria and why do I not want that lettuce? fightback.org is a really good resource to go to find out what you don't want. So with that being said, does anybody have any other questions for me at the moment?
Is that the fight back, is that BAC on purpose?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. And it has it in your brochure.
Okay, I just didn't wanna make it sure it wasn't a typo.
No. Yeah, it's on your brochure that it's fightback.org. So, the first one I want to point out, and I'm probably going to mispronounce these, is this Clostridium botulinum, okay, which causes botulism, which you may have heard of. Now, botulism is not real super common, and let me give you the statistics on foodborne illnesses real quick here. And we've all had an upset stomach or diarrhea or something unpleasant. And there's certainly a chance with that it may have been a foodborne illness caused by bacteria. It's estimated each year that about 48 million people get sick from foodborne illnesses, which is the equivalent of 1 in 6 Americans. And of those 48 million, 1,200 are hospitalized and 3,000 deaths occur. And certainly in the hospitalization and the death, it could be preventable. So it's kind of something we want to be aware of. Botulism is kind of serious, although like I said, it's not common. I think it used to be more common. But not long ago, they had some honey in babies' pacifiers in Texas, and that gave them botulism. So honey, although it's fine for anyone over a year old and they don't exactly know why, little guys can get botulism from honey, it's not something, you should not give honey to anyone under 12 months old. And when I worked in daycares, we couldn't even give them the honey graham crackers. They were very careful about it. So we had to give them the other graham crackers if they were, 8, 9 months, 10 months, getting to that point. And the symptoms of botulism are weakness of muscles that control the eyes, face, mouth, and throat, and then that weakness spreads. And botulism can also be like from a dented can, and not all dented cans are going to have it. But if the can's dented and air's getting into it, and I did see what I think was botulism one time from a dented can. And I don't buy dented cans anymore. Even if it makes my husband mad when I accidentally buy one and I throw it out. I just because it was off, and it's a very serious illness. And then improperly canned foods. And if you ever need some resources for canning foods, the Extension Office has a great website you can go to, and if you'll get with me later, I will get that for you, and so does the USDA. And I do have some information. I'm not a canner, but I do have some information in my office I can always look up for you. You can always give me a call, and I'd be glad to give you the websites, or look it up, or get with other people within my program, because I do have people in my program that are well educated in canning. So that's the first one I wanted to tell you about, and it's not prevalent, but it is serious, so it's kind of something to know about. And there's a lot of them. Here's the listeria, and I just heard about a listeria recall. And listeria, a lot of us get, it happens. You go out and eat, and you feel a little funny, and you're like, I think that restaurant maybe wasn't keeping their food hot enough. Foodborne illnesses are really hard on babies, little kids, the elderly, people with compromised immune systems. Listeria is very dangerous for pregnant women, for newborns, and again, people with weakened immune systems. So that comes from unpasteurized dairy products, soft cheeses, deli meats, smoked fish, hot dogs, pate, and like your deli salads and things like that. So, well, some of us may get it and just, maybe have to spend the day on the couch watching movies. Other people could end up in the hospital. And it is, like I said, there is a current outbreak linked to packaged salads. And I think how that happens, from what I've been able to learn from this website, is it gets in the soil or the water and then it's passed on into the packages. So I don't even think it's something you can rinse out. You just shouldn't buy it if you know that there's a current outbreak.
How do the stores determine, like, say that there's an outbreak in those packaged salads that you buy, you know, at the, how do they initially find out? Like, does somebody say, hey,
I believe that they are like connected probably to something USDA wise that would send them an email, give them a call. I know, and I don't know who sent them, but I actually years and years ago I worked in retail at Walmart, and you know, they knew right away. And they would get the product information, like look for this UPC code, look for this date. They knew exactly what to look for, and they were pulling those products right away. So, I mean, the product shouldn't be on the shelf right now, but it is just good to know because, I mean, human error happens.
right?
You know, it just does. So, just something useful to know. And it, like I say, it must be USDA, CDC, somebody like that calling them. The last one I want to talk about really quick is salmonella. And we've all probably heard of salmonella. It is the most common bacterial cause of diarrhea in the United States. And it's the most common cause of foodborne deaths, responsible for 1.4 million cases of foodborne illness a year. And salmonella comes from raw and undercooked eggs. That's kind of why they say, you know, don't feed your kids raw cake batter, which I was guilty of. But having worked around food so much and whatnot, I probably, if I could go back and do it, I probably wouldn't. I mean, obviously my kids didn't get sick, but I think maybe it's a little like playing, you know, Russian roulette. You take a little bit of risk. So those are the ones I just kind of wanted to make you aware of because they are pretty common, and there are more on this site if you're interested in going and checking it out. I don't know that it's the most fun thing to look at, but it is kind of nice to know. Now, your brochures are going to tell us how to kind of fight back against these foodborne illnesses. One of the first things that we can do is, of course, to wash our hands. And there's 4 different steps to take. There's clean, which is washing your hands, separate, cook, and chill, and that's all in your brochure. So the first thing is to just wash our hands and to clean our surfaces. And there's a simple way to make a spray to kind of sanitize your surfaces, and that's a gallon of water and a tablespoon of bleach, and then you can pour it into your little sprayers. That's just the right amount to kill bacteria, but it's not going to leave, you know, contaminants on your food.
So 1 tablespoon?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 1 tablespoon to 1 gallon. In our classes, we do kind of a fun thing, and I didn't know how many people and didn't want to drag everybody to the sink. But we put on some what we call glow germ gel that just shows up under black light. And then we all go wash our hands the way we normally would, and then we see what kind of glow germ gel is left. And it's interesting. But when you're washing your hands, do be sure you take that 20 seconds. When I teach the little kids this, and this is something we do stress with little kids because they're kind of germy, honestly. We tell them to sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star real slowly. So, and I do that now, or their ABCs. So that gets most of the bacteria off. I mean, there's no getting rid of all the bacteria because it's just around us, and some of it's not actually bad for us. But taking just a little extra time to wash your hands is a good idea. And then washing your cutting boards and your dishes and utensils, and you know, using that little spray bottle with bleach to sanitize your cutting boards. And it's never a bad idea to have a couple of them. There are, on the page here, there are, and then rinsing our fruits and vegetables under running water before we eat them. And you want to do this right before, I mean, like if I buy apples, I'm probably going to set them, out for the kids to grab at least for a while. So you want to rinse them before you eat them. But if you're not going to eat something right away and your kids aren't going to get into it and eat it, you can wait, because then there's that protective coating that helps the food keep longer. But certainly you just want to rinse it under warm running water. You don't have to use bleach on your fruits and veggies. You just rinse them, and that helps clean them, makes them safer. But something to know about your refrigerator, and I like to think that my refrigerator is not like this, but the drawers in our crispers can kind of get dirty, and we don't even see it, because of course you don't see the bacteria. It's unless you get a microscope, and they've tested and they have salmonella and listeria. So just kind of be aware of that. That might also be a good thing too. Not that you don't, but maybe clean them off just maybe a little bit more frequently, just so you know. And to kind of keep everything safe, and certainly keeping your raw meat, in a container and away from everything so it's not leaking onto everything. Now, when we get to the cook principle, the USDA did a test with hamburgers, and 1 in 4 hamburgers turn brown before it's actually at the safe temp. So that's where a food thermometer comes in and is really handy. And I have seen this a lot working in daycares. You think it's done and it's not. And some people kind of like their hamburgers underdone, and that's fine, just as long as there's a little bit of risk there. But again, maybe when you're cooking for somebody that could potentially get sick, you may want to be a little more careful, and certainly with chicken and poultry and things like that. Just test a couple of pieces with your food thermometer. And in our classes, that's what you get with lesson 2 is a free food thermometer. So for somebody that, can't just go to Walmart and buy one, it's kind of a good resource with our classes. And then, of course, we teach this. I lost my place here. When cooking in a microwave, make sure also to test it. Some people kind of mistakenly think that it's the microwave that kills the bacteria, and that's not really true. It's the heat the microwave produces. It's always the heat that kills the bacteria. That's why we need to cook our foods to the proper temperature. And you do have a nice, if you don't already have one on your brochure, it gives you an idea of what you should be cooking your foods to. So if you microwave them, you definitely still want to test them. And leftovers should be cooked to 165 degrees, and that's in your brochure. And I have had leftovers make family members sick before at a Thanksgiving. And I think what happened is, it's Thanksgiving and you're not
You
really...
leave it out forever.
You leave it out, and you really only have a 2-hour window to get your leftovers in the fridge. Let me show you. I've got some beads here that we're going to pretend are bacteria. So, after about an hour, this is what the bacteria in our food would look like. And that's really not an amount that would harm you. Like I said, we live with bacteria. I mean, we've all eaten some. So you're okay. Now, if it's a really hot day, of course, it may be more. Your danger zone is between 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 140 degrees. But of course, if it gets a little hotter, it may be a little faster. However, after just 2 hours, this is the amount of bacteria in your food. So we really want to get it into the fridge or get it into the freezer. And once you do that, the bacteria is slowed down. However, it doesn't stop It still is going. So when you freeze an item and you take it out of the freezer and it starts to defrost, the bacteria does start going in, so that's something to be aware of. But if you take meat out and say you take your hamburger out, you're gonna have it tonight, and you're leaving it in your fridge to defrost, or if you're really in a hurry,
Leave it on the counter.
you're not supposed to do, we're actually not supposed to leave it on the counter. But you can put it in cool water or you can microwave it. However, if you've only had it in your refrigerator, not in the cool water, microwaved it, and you decide to go to dinner or, something great happens and you don't have to cook, you can refreeze it as long as it's only been in your fridge and it hasn't, been there 10 days. If you've just taken it out, even if it's defrosted, you can refreeze it, and I've tried it and it works fine. I would say the only thing is it maybe changes the texture of the meat a little bit, but of course freezing sometimes does that anyway. So something to consider if you haven't taken it out of your fridge, you can refreeze it and it's not wasted. So, and that's not something a lot of people know. And I didn't believe it till I tried it, and yeah, it's nice to know. But yeah, they don't recommend leaving it on your counter because then it's in the danger zone for longer. So put it in cool water in the fridge and that'll help, or just throw it in the microwave just to keep it out of the danger zone and keep that bacteria a little bit more in control while you're defrosting. So the next principle is to chill. If you want to, a food thermometer or a refrigerator thermometer is always a good idea, making sure you're staying between 33 to 40 degrees, not getting too hot. Usually we can tell, but it's handy to have. And then regularly cleaning the inside of our fridge, which most of us do. When you're packing for the freezer, and I'm just going to read this to you, and you may know this, but just in case, the key to packing food for freezing is to keep moisture inside the package and the air out. So the contact with the air causes changes in flavor and color. So pack your fruits and veggies in airtight containers or moisture-proof heavy-duty freezer bags and force as much air out as you can. And then wrap your freezer bags in your heavy-duty foil and then seal them with freezer tape. And that will help keep the products fresher. And definitely stay away from your plastic sandwich bags because they're really not heavy duty enough to go in the freezer. I mean,
What about
maybe
the ones freezer.
the
specified?
sealers.
The freezer specified that say
Yes,
freezer.
yes, I think that's what they're referring to.
Oh.
Try to get the freezer specified. And then a few hours before adding your food to the freezer, try to set it at its coldest setting so it freezes, kind of flash freezes. And flash freezing, when we're talking about nutrients in food, those flash frozen items are great. They have preserved all the nutrients. So when it comes to preserving nutrients, to set it at the coldest temperature helps preserve the freshness and the nutrients in your foods.
So are you supposed to set your freezer at the lowest temperature? Or?
Yes, when you're first freezing foods. And then, if you don't want to keep it at that deep freeze, you can turn it back up a little bit.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay. And again, microwaves, you kind of want to be aware of the difference in wattage and power, and you probably know your microwave. But again, that's where a food thermometer comes in really handy. Stick in your leftover casserole and make sure it's at 165, which is very hot, and we'll have to cool a little bit before you can serve it. But then you know that it is safe. And just using microwave safe containers is a good idea.
Do they have any new information? Because like the air fryers and the convection cookers and all those things that are coming out now. Do they have any
I don't have any information yet on air fryers that I'm aware of. Now I could go looking. I do have an air fryer, and I just like when I I did like little beef steaks the other night in there. And I just checked them like I would, they were my oven. I just stuck my meat thermometer in a couple of them, and they were cooked to temperature. And I know the air fryers cook really fast, so I think as long as you're checking like your temperatures of your meat, you should be fine. And they do have a little thing on slow cookers here, because I've always wondered.
Yeah.
I mean, slow cookers, like I couldn't live without mine. I have to have, throw everything in the slow cooker and forget it, and then you come home and dinner's done. It's wonderful. But slow cookers, the direct heat from the pot and the steam created within the container combine to destroy the bacteria, and make the slow cooker a safe process for cooking. But there are some reminders and tips they've given us. When you're cooking large cuts of meat and poultry in a slow cooker, just be sure that the raw meat comes up to the proper internal temperature, and to kind of pay attention to the temperature of the foods and adjust the cooking accordingly. So say you go to cook some chicken, and maybe you start off on high to kind of get it up there instead of low, because obviously if it's sitting at just 100 degrees for 6 hours, it's not getting cooked and not being safe. So something to think about. And
Is that all the hotter slow cooker?
well, no, they should cook to a proper temperature. They should. They get hotter than that. I think a lot of the problems sometimes with slow cookers is we like throw frozen foods in, or we just kind of don't cut it, and to cut it into a little bit smaller pieces so it's cooking evenly. And again, just to get that food thermometer and stick it and make sure that it is coming to the proper temperature. But most slow cookers are great and easy to use and should be fine. So just something to be aware of though. And grilling. When it comes to grilling, do all your marinating in your fridge and not on your counters. And again, you want to poke your meat. You want to take your food thermometer and make sure it's coming up to the same temperature. And then of course placing your cooked meats on a clean plate and not the plate you used with the raw juices. So that's cooking, and that kind of goes over the 4 steps in here. And I'll kind of just, there's the cleaning, which is washing our hands and surfaces. There's the separating, and that can even start at the grocery store. When you're buying your meat, don't place it on top of your veggies. Just simple common sense things like that. Cooking to proper temperatures, getting it out of the danger zone, getting it in your refrigerator as quickly as possible so it's then chilled, which is the 4th step, and refrigerating things properly. So that is just a short deal on how to keep your food safe. And if you have any questions and I can't answer them for you, I can always go to the website. And if you have any questions at any time, feel free to give me a call at my office. And I can, like I say, use my resources to find out more on your questions. So is there anything that I kind of skimmed over that you do have a question on right now?
Should we leave our food out for the 4 hours of the game?
No, I know that's not your perishables. Now your chips, you can leave those out. But there is a certain risk there. And I know, okay, I have a teenager at home, and I let him take some pizza into his room with his friend, and I assumed that when they were done, they would put it in the fridge. They did not. It sat out all night, and they ate it, and I like to die. It's like, oh my gosh, you're going to... And he did not get sick, of course, but he is very healthy and has no problems, and he's not allowed to ever have food in his room again either. So you really should get it in within those 2 hours. Or maybe have a couple courses or something like that. But there's just a risk there. So
Okay.
something to be aware of with the perishable food. There is a risk. Like I said, I did have Thanksgiving leftovers that I was the only one that got sick, but I was the only one that ate one certain item that had been left out. So I didn't feel too bad, and I did kind of lay around the next day, and I think I watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy or something. but it can happen. There is some risk there. I think we're getting close to being over, so we're about 5 minutes early.
I just have a question.
Yes.
About, do you know anything about raspberries? Like, you know how we were talking about you should wash your fruit and stuff,
Mhm.
but have you ever tried to like rinse raspberries?
They
Fall
can
apart?
be,
Yeah.
they can be a little tricky.
I know they go. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Yeah, they can be a little tricky because they're such a delicate fruit. Generally, just putting them in a colander and, maybe just, like I have two ways I can have my sink, the faucet.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just start out, with just a little bit of low, not turned on, and just kind of rinse them gently. Cause yeah, you'll. And they definitely, something like raspberries, I wouldn't think need scrubbed. The scrubbing is mainly like your potatoes, which, we do
Okay.
that anyway. We scrub our potatoes and things like that. Do be sure though that, like with an orange or a melon or your bananas, that you also rinse those. Because as soon as you peel it, if the person who was, looking at it before you at Walmart or Smith's or wherever sneezed on it, you're gonna get that germ on your hand. Or if you pass a knife through it like you would an onion, onions should always be rinsed. As soon as you pass that knife through it, those germs go right onto the onion. So all fruits and vegetables should be, rinsed, even if we don't need to scrub like our delicate ones, which we don't. Just rinsing is usually good enough. But melons, definitely rinse those before you cut them. Give them a rinse and get all the dirt off so you're not passing your knife through and spreading back. We have to fight back so we don't get sick. So anyway, thank you all for coming. There are some evaluations here. You're welcome to take one and just let me know what you think and leave it. If you don't have a chance to fill it out now, you can just leave it up front at the extension office. Extension office. Table up front.
So, what does your program mainly focus on? Is it food safety, or is it also teaching kids like how to eat healthy or why to eat healthy?
It teaches why to eat healthy and how and why. Food safety is just a small portion,
Right.
and it's even just a small portion of my main adult classes because, if you're eating something and getting sick, if that apple, like I said, had bacteria on it and you're getting sick for it, then the nutrients is kind of takes some of the fun out of eating healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we teach them just little basic things like dairy, which is a big thing for me, because I've seen, working in daycares, I've seen the effects of kids not having proper dairy, and it's a little scary.
What are the effects?
What's that?
What are some effects?
Well, not having, like, their bones being kind of brittle. This was in kind of an extreme case. And certainly, but we've all seen, like osteoporosis in an older person.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other reasons that people get osteoporosis. It may not be this, but it can be just as simple as not intaking enough dairy, which, by the way, you need about 1,000 milligrams, or the equivalent of 3 cups of milk.
Does ice cream count?
I hope so. I hope so. I count it. No. Ice cream does count, and it's a pretty good source of calcium, and that's something we have a whole lesson on calcium and protein in our lessons. We have a whole great, wonderful lesson on fruits and veggies, and again, we teach kids, why an apple is a better choice than a piece of cake. And the apple is going to give you some vitamin A, the orange is going to give you some vitamin C, and that cut you have on your hand, that's going to heal a little bit better if you eat the orange and the apple as opposed to the piece of cake. There's nothing wrong with having a piece of cake. Nothing wrong at all. But if you're constantly kind of eating the empty calories, it can over time affect your health. And that's one of our messages, is everything we eat and drink over time matters. So, but the good thing about ice cream is, yes, it does have calcium. So maybe it's not.
Not
It is a sometimes food, but maybe a little more sometimes. I don't know. That's how I consider it. I don't know if that's official program information, but that's how I consider it. But yes, to answer your question, we try to teach them why they should be eating fruits and veggies. We go into grains and how whole grains are a little bit, and we try, we simplify it, obviously. You can't, sometimes understanding whole grains is hard for adults, so we try to simplify it for them. Proteins, we always try to, in our program, we try to bring up sources that are less expensive, but just healthy for you. And then, of course, the dairy, which is important for everybody. And, if you're not getting enough of it, eventually your body's going to leach it out of your bones and create problems. So did that thoroughly answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get to talking sometimes and get lost in my own story. I don't know if anybody else does that. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming. And if you want some more information, I do have a booth up front. You're welcome to stop by and chat with me or anything like that.